Welcome back again. It's been a while in terms of the pacing of my previous videos, and here we are again, this time with finally the coveted 1.0 Maniac 1 credit clear. So unlike my other videos, I don't like how they've been going so far with the commentary, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, especially with this run of what's actually happening during the run. So I'm not going to ramble about my general, what has happened in practicing this and some other general things I've learned within the last couple weeks of playing shmups. So I'm going to save that stuff for the end, just letting you know. So if you want that, I'm going to talk about that. I have a lot I really wanted to talk about that stuff, but I am going to actually talk about the run and the strategy. So let's see what to say about this. So 1.0 Maniac is kind of a step up, I would say, from 1.0 original, and I'm playing on W mode. I'm not sure how W versus S compares, but W is a really slow one. And if I remember correctly, it's also the one that's used for actually going for scoring, but I'm not there yet. And Maniac just has a lot more shots. It also has a lot more slowdown, so you'll see how that comes into play. And I guess to one quick thing about, like, at a high level, how the Maniac run seems to go. And again, this is just my own cobbled together understanding of this game. There's obviously experts abound on this game, and I'm not sure what the expert opinion is, but I felt like this mode was extremely unforgiving in terms of routing, which was a big change for me, where I would kind of play stages by feel, and this mode really forced me to figure out the best routes that I could for every section. And every time I improved my routing, my strategy, I was rewarded for that. It also seemed to challenge resource usage decisions through the run, in terms of when you end up at a certain stage with a certain number of bombs, what are you gonna do? Because there's some sections in this that I felt like I had to have a bomb for. So without further ado, let's get into it. And again, if you want to hear some other general thoughts of stuff that I've just been dying to share with anybody, stick around to the end. But we're gonna focus on what actually happened in this run. I feel like it's a meme at this point, but there's not a whole lot going on in stage 1, but you can start to get a feel for what's going on with Maniac mode. It's hard playing and doing these videos. You feel like you learn so much with every run, and I'm trying not to sound like a know-it-all, because I'm not. I'm just really interested in this and have a lot of thoughts about it. Some of those thoughts are amateurish, but it's fun to share and talk about, and I've really enjoyed seeing people's comments and everything like that. That's exactly why I wanted to make videos. So what is worth saying here is the route that I'm following here, I pretty much try to follow it every time. When I start to deviate from the route, it actually does start to get risky, just because there's so many more shots, everything's coming at you faster. But I did find that playing it a little bit aggressive on stage 1 seemed to be helpful, meaning staying a little bit closer to the top. This spot always felt the most, there's a part here where, the very end actually, right before the boss. But yeah, this worked really well, just kind of alternating sides. And yeah, that you got to be ready for those last two flying moths. Okay, so it's quick taps to the right here to easily sidestep those. Now stay in the middle here, go to the right. Now you have to go up and over, and you got to be careful not to clip the tail edge of those lines. Now here it helps to follow the arc of the curve and look intently at your ship. Here, to start in the middle, tapping over a little bit, keeping an eye on the row that I'm in, because there's usually going to be one micro dodge that needs to be done in that section. Now, important to get as close as possible here for as long as possible, do as much damage, and then go right back in when this pattern starts, because this pattern is brutal. I got a really nice, easy version of that pattern there, but I try to quick kill it as fast as possible in phase 2 so that I can avoid that pattern. That I've lost quite a few runs there. I was having trouble until I started focusing on doing as much damage as possible to make that phase go by quickly, because I really had a hard time with that last pattern. Now things start to get more interesting. So knowing where the having a general idea of when to go left and when to go right, and then just kind of following that flow, I think that's the way to break down. That's how I break down these routes. And knowing where those beetles are and where you're planning to dodge when the moth shows up, you can kind of dodge left or right. So you can see in that case I dodged right, and then I planned to weave through the popcorn swarm. So here trying to take out those trees as quickly as possible. And now we have mid-boss 2. Usually doesn't give me trouble, but this first pattern is really scary. I ended up not needing to practice. There's some patterns where I felt like I didn't have a good handle on them, but I wasn't having trouble on them. So I just decided whatever I'm doing is working. I'm just going to focus my practice in other areas. Now this pattern, it helps to be, or not this one. I try to get close so I don't have to suffer through that last pattern he has. And now trying to make sure you stay under the moths long enough to kill them. Otherwise, you'll got a moth stuck on the screen, and then this next section gets really tough. I also had trouble here. Oh, another thing that you're seeing here is mastering that, what is it called? Weaving or streaming, where you kind of do a U-shaped pattern. That was really something that this mode forces you to do a lot more. So you can see how that's going up and to the left, up and to the right, and then down into the middle is giving me a lot more gaps to dodge. And it's really useful knowing that the beetles are going to clear all the shots when you break them. That's a cool mechanic. This guy always just dodged down diagonally, always seems to work out. And then this is probably the way I usually do this last section. It can be tricky because those trees might not be open when you want them to, but you want to get rid of that scorpion. Now pattern here is break the legs, wait until the first shot there, now dash over to the left leg and just tap left a little bit, dodge this pattern, make sure you break that last leg, it's kind of hard to see. And now it's pretty smooth sailing here at the bottom, giving me the most reaction time. Here I like to stay at the bottom, then go up and around this here. And if you're good, I have a little bit of a bad habit of holding A, so I'm going slowly. This pattern, dodge left, and then right, and then stop. Move as little as possible here. Otherwise, that thing will chase you. And then this pattern, I always go to left and then tap right. Now we have pattern 2, getting a little more aggressive so that I'm going to have as quick as this phase as possible. And this is the route I like to follow. Just kind of dodge left and then dodge right and then micro dodge those patterns. Then here, it's just a matter of endurance, keeping an eye on the ball and the gap and where you are. And this is a quite the thrill ride, this pattern. Like I was trying to say, I have a habit of holding A and not releasing it to give me that little burst of speed. So that's something I'm definitely going to work on. Especially the more tense a run gets, I have a habit of really just holding A for too long. And that can be a problem in certain patterns. So you need that burst of speed. Things happen really fast here. Clear right, and then be ready for these guys. You got to have your eye a nice broad focus here, so you can see that pattern and weave through it. Having some vertical movement, some separation from the bottom seems to really help with dodging those yellow beetles. But those guys are really nasty. That was one of my trouble spots, weaving through those patterns. Now here, I just like to very slowly tap dodge to the right and then get in position to start doing these sweeps. So how these sweeps work is the 2 eye blast go and then you sweep to the left, clear, eye blast goes sweep up and to the right and then down. And so you just follow this pattern. Once the eye blasts are done, you sweep up, and then you got to weave through the gap you created by sweeping up. So you can see how that's going here. And this worked just exactly how I wanted it to. The trick is to start your sweep up as soon as you the eye blast is done. Always on the black beetles, pause, let them shoot, and then micro dodge. And here I like to go up around the leftmost one. This one's easy enough to dodge. And then over here you gotta just stay on the left and then dodge a little bit right and not too far right. Otherwise you'll start taking shots from the middle of the left side of the screen. And it's kind of a more relaxed area here, so always good to know when you can kind of just take a break and turn your brain off a little bit. I like to tap in rhythm with the music here to the right, because all these shots are aimed shots, so there's all this junk going on the screen. And now when you start to hear that synth, the da-da-da, then you know that section's going to become vulnerable. Here's another tough spot. You want to stay as far left as possible, and again, stop and tap dodge only after the black beetle is shot. Same on the left, but this time you want to stay as right as possible so you have a good situation. If you get too far left, that black beetle will be hidden by this segment, and you'll have to dodge the black beetle shots as well as that segment. And now we're back to this pattern of chilling out in the bottom right. We're waiting for the power-up to show up. Just gonna go grab that, and then another rhythmic tapping section to the left, and then once we break it, we start going back to the right to clear the remaining snakes. And now we gotta open up and go to the left, clear left and right, again stop, and then tap dodge. And now here's a tough section. So center, and then not holding A. So this, I like to look at the two lanes, so I like to dodge to the right, dodge to the left, dodge to the right, dodge to the left, and now dodge to the left, and now the popcorn shots come back on again, so you gotta be ready for that. And dodge left and right, making sure we clear that center section, otherwise you're gonna have a really bad time. And finally here I like to go left for the popcorn, or for the yellow beetle if I can, and then right. That was the easiest to dodge the left yellow beetle shots. And then we have the classic extend strategy here, which it's pretty much the same as all the other modes. Bomb, sweep to the left, and bomb, and then go a little bit right, because he's going to get off one shot on the left wing and break the center. Alright, and now break those bottom two sections, and then this is pretty much exactly the pattern I follow every time on this boss. Don't get too far right or you won't have room to dodge these big waves. And now get over to the left, over in the corner, and holding A so we have as much reaction time as possible. And the trick there is look diagonally to the right and then start looking up above your ship, because the direction the shots come from change. Sweeping up here and getting as much damage as we can, and this is where I'm prepared to bomb. Sometimes you can get through this with a bomb, but I'm usually prepared to bomb here. I try to, but sometimes it's possible to get through there. It's just not super consistent. Same with this section. I like to go to the right and then dodge to the left here, and there's usually a gap, but again, I was ready to bomb. Wasn't quite ready for that, but that's okay. And now that's a really nasty section, but thankfully with the timing of our bombs, we're good. And now I'm just taking stock of everything. I've got 1 bomb, 5 lives, so there's a really critical section coming up where I need a bomb in this next section so that I can grab the formation power-up on the mid-boss. So that is top of mind. And the routing gets even more unforgiving here. Gotta know exactly how you're going to deal with these beetles. Making sure to get close to them, clear them fast as possible. Tough section here, stay low, sweep left a little bit so you can clear the popcorn and have that little gap to get through. And then sweeping right here makes it the easiest to dodge the popcorn on the left. These guys, all I seem to find is just tap dodging a little bit to the right and just hanging out. Usually you avoid it. I don't know what the aiming logic is. And then it's staying at the bottom here to maximize the beaten area, the area that's covered by your shots. And then just get ready for the next swarm of beetles, and getting as close as you can to those beetles so you can clear them as fast as possible is great. And then you can just make it under that volley there. Those little popcorn guys I discovered, it seems like they start with a fixed shot, and then they switch to aim shots. So that can really get you. Now we have the double beetle section. This is brutal. I should have bombed there, but yeah, what can you do? My usual strategy is I go under one beetle and then dodge diagonally down to the left. So here I'm saving a bomb so I can grab that formation power up. Get ready for his next pattern though. It can throw you off. His wings open when he switches to it, so if he's not shooting because of your bomb, you can use that as a visual indicator. Then get right up in his face for this next pattern. The more space you have to back dodge, the better. I got really unfortunate. I usually do really well on that pattern, but it didn't line up, and I wasn't at the top of my game because my nerves were really high because I usually don't have such a good run this far. I've actually only started really making attempts today. So this, you can sometimes get through here without a bomb by dodging right up here and getting right up to the right of the snake, but it just didn't work out there. If you see that popcorn diagonally back into the left from you, you probably want to bomb there because he's likely going to just crash into you. But if you can manage to go slow enough and get left enough, you can avoid that. And then here you have to know, your focus should be, I think, like clearing the water beetles that show up. Otherwise, they'll get under you and overwhelm you. And then also, once that's done, breaking the tails. So you can pretty easily, you can clear those shots and get through these sections. So see the water beetles here, they show up on the left. Not great here. So I had to bomb because I didn't get that, get all the water beetles. And you see, getting right over to the snake and clearing the head as soon as possible is what you should, I think, works best. And then going up here, clearing this island before getting the rest of the snake segments. And if a head sneaks past you, you can still open up and take out the segments. They individually don't have much HP. So just don't try to get point blank in front of the head. It's not consistent. Once you get here though, it's smooth sailing. Just make sure to focus on this one as it comes over and just hang out in the corner down here. And you can get 2 tails if you go up in point blank. Just be careful. Don't be too eager to rush up there because there are some shots coming from the corner. And then point blank, those tails, it'll clear the power-up beetle shots. And now this is my boss 2 strategy. So usually I have 4 bombs here. So what I decided to do is plan to use those 2 bombs as best as I can. That first pattern is not too hard unless he shoots that second overlaying pattern. So I usually bomb when I see that overlaying pattern. This one, you got to be ready for it, and I managed to get through it without bombing, but usually I would bomb that. Same here, I usually bomb once that wave of little ones gets through, but I was actually doing pretty well here, but it was getting a little iffy. And now I have no bombs, so it's just kind of fingers crossed here. That is dodgeable, those needles, but it's really tough. Sometimes it's just, I feel like it's not dodgeable. So usually I use 4 bombs on this guy, and it's really straightforward. I just was trying to conserve my resources. I kind of like when you run out of bombs, and I don't do that a lot. That's a sign of not good resource usage. But it forces you to practice the kind of tough dodges that you've done. So routing here is very important. Usually I'm not in a good position. This isn't how I usually do this. Obviously, I tried to clear those grasshoppers. I think what happened is my nerves were really high, so I didn't get up close enough to the grasshoppers to do enough damage, so they didn't get their second volley off, so I wasn't killing them as fast as I usually do. Then from here, we're starting to recover, so this is a really, really critical section here. Grabbing that, immediately going to the right, sweeping down, and then sweeping back to the right. I found that left the most gaps in the grasshoppers shot, so that was pretty consistent. And then these pitcher plants, I would take them differently depending on the situation. That just shouldn't have happened. That should have been an easy dodge. But yeah, getting in front of those grasshoppers and pulling back. Then there's this was me kind of recovering from my death. So sometimes with the pitcher plants, I just rush straight up to them and point blank them. Other times I just chill out near the bottom, wait for them to shoot their blast, and then dodge through and point blank them. So it really, you have to get a feel for when they're about to shoot. So Now, this section here, also a big practice section for me. So starting here, tap dodge a little to the right, then sweep up, and then be holding down constantly as you tap dodge slightly to the right. And you'll usually have a gap here. And now you can rush the piranha plant, pitcher plant. This isn't Mario. And then the other one. So I've played through this section deathless and bombless quite a few times. It didn't go that way, unfortunately, in this run, but then just going right here, it's pretty easy to kill this plant. Be wary of these beetles, because they can get you. They're really low on the screen. All right, now this is my mid-boss strategy, pretty much to the letter. I start on the left and then tap dodge to the right, and then if that blob is on me, I tap dodge slightly to the left and then go up through here so I can get as close as possible. Now here, if you tap dodge down and to the right over time at a certain rhythm, you can easily weave through this zigzag pattern. So it's a really consistent way through this pattern, which is awesome. I forgot that sometimes you have to dodge that last pattern there, so there was a death there that usually doesn't happen. I was excited and I just forgot. Now this section's really tough. So this never goes this well. But I did have a pattern here, and I had to gamble because I didn't have any lives left. So I'm actually really proud of this section because I did practice doing all these parts. But honestly, this might be one of the few times I've successfully gotten through here. I'm glad that it was caught on tape, but I wouldn't say that this is like super consistent for me. Some of those dodges were risky, but yeah, that initial sweep up after the mid boss from the right over to the left, that was my strategy that is somewhat consistent for getting through there. And then same here. So on the moths, I found it's important to pause when the moths do their shot. Otherwise, they'll fire patterns that overlap a lot. So I like to go over in the corner here to dodge that grasshopper and then slowly tap dodge to the right. Again, if you move too much when the moths shoot, then they fire an overlapping pattern that's really hard to dodge. And then these guys, this is how I do it. It's going a little too fast to explain. You got to try to get over to the left, bait out that grass shot, and then weave over through that pattern. If you go over to the left too far, you'll get got by the grass shot. Now here, this is a planned bomb section, so just go up to the left and then very slowly, using all that slowdown, taking your time to see what is where, to just go up here and then bomb and point blank those moths. And don't be too far forward or the boss will get you when he appears. Same with keep an eye on the left and the right beetles in that back section because they will shoot you. So now I have to face this boss and I have to no miss it, which I was really scared about because I'm not super consistent. So I like to dodge here, take my time, see a gap between them, come up as soon as I can and make sure I go far left and far right. And then just this exact sort of approach to get some gaps to dodge through. Same here. So this lets me get as close as possible to the boss. And now this, I got a pretty good pattern. He has two types of shots. He can do those separate lines or he can do a clump. And I'm ready to bomb here if I don't get if I'm not concerned about my dodges. And then this went pretty well. I can't honestly say that I'm consistent on that section, but you can eventually get it. This is plan to bomb here. This, I got lucky here, I have to say. So I go up and then bomb again, and it went on a little longer than I was expecting, so did you see that? I dodged through that row of arrows, so that was just a complete luck. Normally that pattern doesn't go on super long. But this pattern's not too bad. It's a cool one. This is my route that I always follow for this pattern, and it's pretty easy to weave through those once you get the hang of it. And there we go. I was very excited. So, while this all plays out, this isn't... What score did I end up with? I guess that's not my best score. I'll turn this down a little bit as that plays out. So, this was the hardest run yet, as usual. You can tell by how much time has gone through. I have not been slacking in my practice. I think something I noticed as I was practicing is this is on to kind of my general commentary about what I've noticed, any thoughts I've had since the last time. So I've been starting to see patterns more quickly and clearly. So like seeing lanes of fire and seeing the empty space of patterns as opposed to the individual shots. So that's something that's just been getting a little bit better over time, especially for seeing a given pattern, shot pattern. I think maybe it would be useful if I consciously was like looking for the space rather than the shots. I've heard that tip before, and I haven't been really consciously trying to do that, but I bet if I did, I'd learn some patterns a little bit faster. Look for the space. But also, I think you kind of need to look at the shots too to see what path are the shots taking. Like, it's easier to see the path of a line than it is to see a shifting two-dimensional area, I think. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll go ahead and pause it. Maybe we'll just go back while I ramble on a bit more. So I'll turn this down a little bit. And the speed of things is also starting to feel a little bit more manageable. When I first fired up this mode, like everything was feeling so fast. Another interesting thing that happened is when I was away for a bit and I just had my laptop. Yes, I brought this game on my laptop and my controller so I could play this game. That's how I enjoy myself. Don't judge me. I did other things. I didn't just play this game. And so my laptop screen is obviously not optimal. It's pretty far away and it's kind of below me, but it was interesting. I noticed some advantages of having the screen so far away. Like, I was able to more easily see the movement of shots, because when the screen's really close, it seems like the shots are going faster because the angle between the shot and your eyes, the arc that they travel through, is wider when the screen is closer to you. So it makes the shots seem slower when the screen is farther away. So that was interesting. And I had been really struggling with my monitor setup. Like I was feeling like some of these patterns were so hard and so impossible. Specifically talking about that boss 4. I thought that I needed to be able to get through him without using any bombs, but I looked at a couple runs, including one, like, I think world record, and they were just bombing the boss the whole time, and so I took that as justification to do the same, and that was really tough. I was getting really frustrated because I felt like I just couldn't do this boss consistently, and like it was going to be really lucky, but that's what sometimes I think it's important to consider. Who do I want to just shut down? What boss do I want to just not have to do? So I did that. Man, I think I lost my train of thought. Well, anyway, so my monitor, I was starting to have issues with eye strain, which I've had in the past. As I put my monitor closer, I had more eye strain. It might feel like a headache, so if you're not used to it, you might confuse it as a headache, but it's actually like the muscles in your face, at least for me, with how I tense up my eyes. It feels kind of like my forehead or the middle of my forehead. I think that was because my screen was too close, and I just thought it had to be that close, otherwise I wasn't going to be able to dodge the boss 4's patterns. But when I started playing through on my vacation with the screen really far away, and I was able to actually get some pretty good runs in, I took that as a sign. Okay, let's try moving the monitor further back. And my setup was so awkward having the monitor so close to me. So I was able to move it back, and that's what I was doing today. And I moved it back further than I thought I would. But so obsessing over the distance of the screen, like, I don't think it does need to be right up in your face. I'm sure there's some people who swear by that, and that's fine. But it ended up not being necessary for this run. And I think I found a good distance that isn't giving me eye strain. And speaking of eye strain, yeah, another thing I struggled with was just like wrist and finger and hand pain. I play the game a lot, but thankfully I've so a few things that I was doing, even with my new setup, I had issues with eye strain, so I would make a point to always, at least daily, do some eye exercises for eye strain. I'm sure you can find some online, but basically it's kind of like rolling your eyes around, palming, like putting your palms over front of your eyes. I think it's too much for this video to talk in detail about the exercises that I do, but I would do those at least once a day, like before definitely after a session, and also at night, and then interspersed through a session, like every time if I'm doing runs, like every 30 minutes maybe. So that really helped. And then with the fingers and wrist pain, when I used to play this game called Beat Saber that was super hard on your wrists. So I had some exercises from that are, I think, really good and thorough. But like any sort of wrist and finger exercises for gaming, I think you could find some videos. That's how I found my exercises. They work really well. And I always do those before playing, and I do them at night, and I also do them periodically through my sessions. So that helped to keep all of my various physical limitations at a minimum. And of course, you gotta rest at some point. Like, so I couldn't just go all day as much as I wanted to. But that stuff really helped. Another thing that I enjoyed about playing this mode that was more apparent than any other mode is because you have to spend so much time figuring out the route and how to deal with different patterns. I felt like every pattern in the game kind of takes on a holistic flavor. You know, like when you first try a food, it's kind of a combination of a bunch of different flavors, but eventually you learn to understand it as the thing that it is. Like, oh, this is, creamy tomato soup. And it's a combination of a bunch of different flavors. And it felt like some of the patterns were that way for me. It's like playing these games and trying to 1cc them lets you experience the flavor of the pattern that you wouldn't normally get when you're just kind of seeing it for the first time and reacting to it. And that flavor also helps you serve as a mental cue for how to deal with it. So that was cool. And finally, some stuff that I started doing in my runs that I found really helpful is, first of all, micro breaks. So I don't pause. Like, I know I try not to pause. Like, there's some times where I don't think any of my recorded runs I have. But I mean, like, between stages or in easy sections, I try to relax my fingers, and then I'll even palm my eyes for a bit and wait for the score counter to go before I get into the next one. So that helps just recover a little bit of stamina, I think. But sometimes I stopped doing it because I felt like it mentally reset me when I took my eyes off the screen, which was needed for palming. So I would feel like I was kind of not in the flow of going through a run. So I actually didn't do that this run. Especially between stage 2 and stage 3 that you're seeing here. That used to be one spot where I would do that, but I decided not to because I'm like, I just want to go and not interrupt my flow. So I'm skeptical now of certain kinds of microwaves, but at least like taking a little bit of time just to relax my hands. What really was helpful is I started talking to myself a little bit, which, you know, it's a little weird, but because I had such a hard time with like bombing, there would be points in a run where I would check my bombs and I would say out loud to myself, I have 4 bombs. And I would kind of tell myself, I can use my bombs. I would just like say them out loud. Like, I have 4 bombs. I should use them before I die. So I'm checking my bombs and I'm talking out loud to myself about them. That's pretty much the extent of what I would say to myself, is stuff related to bombs. It just helped me be more conscious of the resources at my disposal and to try to use them. And that's about all I have to say. So I guess we'll leave it on ending screen here. Yeah, a lot of stuff. I need to take a step back and figure out what I'm gonna play next, because I've seen Ultra Mode, and I'm honestly not sure if I want to play Ultra Mode. I might try 1.5 Maniac with M. That's the recommended next one. There's a few modes before Ultra, but I've kind of had it in my head that I'm probably not going to take on Ultra in this game, because there's so many other shmups out there that I really want to play. And I know it's good to have a main shmup. I know a lot of people like that, but for me, I kind of would rather have more variety, just because there's so much stuff out there, and it's more fun for me to experience all that. Even though there is unique experiences to be had with pushing a game to its absolute limits, well, there's also unique experiences to be had in variety. And I think that breadth is more accessible to me and doesn't demand as much of my time to see. So that's why you watch a bunch of different movies rather than watching the same one over and over again, usually. Like that's my logic. And I know there's a point with each game where you kind of get diminishing returns as far as the experience of it, I would say. That's what it seems like. But I'll probably take a look at 1.5 Maniac, because I really liked playing 1.5, and I'm curious how things go on Maniac. And I need to look at, somebody mentioned like fiddling with the shot auto fire intervals, so we'll see what works best there, because 1.5 doesn't have the super shot glitch. So we'll see. I've been looking at, I picked up quite a few shmups in the recent Steam sale, so I've been looking at, I kind of like cute 'em ups, as you can tell by playing Sexy Parodius, so I picked up the latest Cotton game, and I have some other cave games like Death Smiles. So those are the ones I've had my eye on. I also I know Saidai Ojo, Dononpachi SDOJ came out recently on the Switch. That one looks kind of cool too. But that's what's been on my radar as what I might play next. But I think Mushihimesama, especially after all I learned from this run, it deserves some more time at least. We'll see just how crazy 1.5 Maniac is, and like original Max and Maniac Max. The trouble with that is I practiced a lot in emulator for this, so that won't be possible on 1.5 as far as I know. I don't know of a emulatable version of it, so maybe I'll have to use Slowdown or something. But that's it. So this has been another video. I know it's been longer than usual, but thanks for sticking around. I hope it was interesting to, see my thoughts about it, and I really appreciate everybody who's been leaving comments and encouragement. That's why I created this channel. It wasn't to get a bunch of views or anything. It was just to be able to share my gameplay and my accomplishments with other people. And so look forward to more in the future. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.